you know what? We got to get this top 6 thing going because we do it sporadically. We got to get consistent with it. We got to find some funny ones.
Yeah,
You got
right.
any good
Well,
ones?
that's going to be the challenge is actually finding.
Well, I got some here. What do you think of that one? Yeah.
Did we do the Gobi one already?
Yeah, we did Gobi.
Did we do lifesavers?
Yeah, we did that too. We didn't do that one. No, that's not that funny. You have any good ones there?
No. Oh, here's one. Top 6 complaints of astronaut Chris Hadfield.
Is it any good?
It's not bad.
Let's see. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, I like that one.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
What do you think, Chris?
That was pretty
Pretty
funny,
good?
actually. Yeah, that's all right. I like
Okay,
that.
we'll go with that one.
Okay, we're going to go with that one.
Thanks, Chris.
Excellent. Welcome back, Six in the City, folks. John Hollingsworth, Dave Paul here, and we're going to introduce our very special guest right now, Colonel Chris Hadfield. Chris, come on in. Hey.
Yes. Pleasure to meet you.
Oh, that's crazy. So you're a very busy man nowadays, aren't you?
Sure. Yes, I am. Yes.
Isn't that a comfy chair?
It's a comfy chair. Yes.
Yeah. Do you have those in the shuttle?
You never sit down in the shuttle, so you don't need a comfy chair, actually.
I didn't know that.
You sit down for takeoff.
Well, for takeoff you do, that's right.
And after that, it's all business.
Chair. That's right. Then you just float around for the whole rest of the time after that.
Dang, I bet that takes some getting used to, doesn't it?
It does. It does indeed.
Yeah. Now, Chris, where are you living now?
I live in Russia. I live in Star City, Zvyozdny Gorodok, a little town about hour and a half east of Moscow.
Can you say the name again?
Zvyozdny Gorodok.
Ah, yes.
It means starry little town.
Zvyozdny
Gorodok. And it's more like a Russian military base. It's where the Russians have been training since Gagarin, in fact. It's also called the Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center, the first human being to fly in space. And they've lived there, trained there ever since. And I've been living there for about a year and a half.
How did you end up going there?
We're building, as you know, the International Space Station. And the cosmonauts and astronauts train in Houston, and they train in Russia. And they do some training in Canada, too, on the arm. But most of the training's in Russia and in the States. In Russia, they train at the Zvyozdny Gorodok, at Cosmonaut Training Center, Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center. And so NASA needs to keep someone over there as director. And so I'm NASA, even though I'm Canadian, I'm the NASA director at the Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center. So I take care of operations there.
Now, you pointed at your flight suit. That is a flight suit.
It's a flight suit.
That's not a jumpsuit.
Not a jumpsuit. Not unless you jump. No.
Yeah, you don't jump. You fly.
I fly, right. Yeah.
Excellent. Actually, we were talking in the green room before the show, and Dave had a couple questions about.
Well, yeah, I guess I can ask you about this. It's not a space question necessarily. I don't know too many people that live in Russia, and I'm wondering if you can tell me, are you exposed to the day-to-day life there? Because I've had this theory that we didn't do Russia any favors when communism fell. We should have helped them more, and now they've got all the worst elements sort of a capitalist society, like corruption and organized crime and everything. I just wonder if you are exposed to that, or what kind of...
Sure. I live in a Russian apartment. I live in Russian society. I have Russian neighbors. I speak Russian in school and in the street, and I think they definitely have had a difficult transition from socialism to what they're doing now. It's been difficult. The people that are still paid as Russians are paid a very small amount of money. They have been given a home, so they can never earn enough money to buy any other place. So they're kind of trapped in one place for life, and that's all they have to give their children as well. So it's definitely a trap. But at the same time, there's huge money in Russia. And Moscow is a thriving city of 10 million people. There are more theaters and opera houses and such in Moscow per capita than any other city in the world. Wow. They have a 1,000-year tradition of the arts. It's a wonderful city, all kinds of things going on, and there's lots of money. And in fact, they're getting tremendous traffic jams over there now because there's becoming enough middle-class wealth that your average person is getting a car and getting a little bit of mobility. So it's happening. It's happening way faster than it happened in North America, that there's a group of rich people, there's a strong middle class, and they're developing a middle class, and with that will come all the services of every day-to-day life. And they're doing it quickly, but it'll still take a few more years.
So there's actually some hope there.
Oh, absolutely. The Western media paints a terrible picture of Russia. Well, you can't read an article without it making fun of Russia or talking about how bad things are. Everybody thinks Moscow's some sort of armed camp of mafia or something. It's nothing like that. I feel safer in Moscow than I did walking around Houston. Or they have half the crime rate of Washington, D.C. I mean, it's a wonderful city, and it's beautiful, and it's a really nice place to live. I've enjoyed it over there.
Wow.
So you don't think that the population is saying, why did we abandon our previous system? You don't think?
Oh, some people are, sure.
Yeah.
Some people were more comfortable, had a better situation. But I think most people, the majority of people, recognize the failures of the previous system, the oppression that came along with it, and they just want the same thing we do. They want better life for their kids. They want opportunity for themselves. They want a good, fulfilling life.
Safety,
and so they're looking for the same opportunities we are. And I think they have better opportunity now. The way they measure it over there, often you measure it. It's a way to tell how optimistic people are. Is how many children they're having. And there have been times in history where they had big families. For the last many years, people have been having one child, very typically. Now they're starting to have, statistically, more children in the family. I think that's probably as good a indicator of optimism over there as anything.
The more kids they have, the more positive they are.
Well, they figure there's hope for the future, hope for the children, and there's opportunity for the children, and so the families grow.
Sure. Now, speaking of kids, I would say it's probably fair to say that you're pretty much a hero to a lot of Canadian kids. I know here in Sarnia, you went to King George Elementary School.
I did.
You like to, you're sort of a patron of that school. I know you've been there a couple times. And now, as a kid yourself, as a child, who were your heroes? Who did you look up to?
I was born in Sarnia in 1959. I grew up here in the 60s. I watched those guys go to the moon. And the first real world events I can think of, I had the big National Geographic map of the moon above my bed, and for a school project, my mom and I made a moon out of plaster of Paris, and that was very much what interested me. And so I watched the very first astronauts very much as my heroes, and Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong and Michael Collins. I thought those guys were just doing some of the most amazing things in history, and I very much patterned my life after them. I became an engineer and became a military pilot and a test pilot. Largely chose that direction because it interested me, but also because it was a path that those guys had led before me.
Did you get to meet any of those guys? You get into the business?
Sure. I've met pretty much everyone who walked on the moon. Several of them have died actually since, but I've had the opportunity to meet almost all of the original astronauts and to ask them what it was like. And so we learned from that. I think for them it was a huge change. You know, they went from being an anonymous test pilot to being in every ticker tape parade in the world.
Yeah, definitely.
And it was a very difficult transition personally, psychologically, for their families. It was extremely tough.
And it changed history as well.
Well, yeah, but from a personal point of view, now it's as you say, there are kids that are interested in what I do. I do try and get back to the schools that I went to.
Yes.
But it's much less of a huge unexpected change in a personal life, I think. You sort of know what it's going to be like to have a chance to go walk in space or fly in space, and what it's going to mean for family.
Chris, how do you react to the myth that has sort of gained momentum, I think a lot through the internet and through some maybe sensational TV shows about the whole Apollo program being a hoax and that man never did walk on the moon?
I think people just need to get out more, I think. Get away from the big conspiracy sites on the web and actually start thinking about what really goes on in the world. For people who are on the web and want to know all the details, there's a site called badastronomy.com, and it goes through every single one of the potential proposed arguments in that TV show and shows what really happened and why.
Blows them out of the water.
Well, I mean, you can say World War I never happened. Go ahead, prove to me World War I happened. It's how do you prove it right now? You know, there's history books written about it. There are still people alive that watched it happen, but how do you conclusively prove it happened? I mean, that's kind of a silly thing to say, but it's the same thing. Going to the moon was the most amazing technological achievement of the last century. To accomplish that with the computers they had at the time and the experience they had at the time, an amazing thing. And then to have some guy who wants to get famous now saying, oh, they never really went, it was all a big cover-up, it's just silly. And I don't know, if you just read about it and do a little research, it's pretty easy to debunk it.
Well, I heard I think maybe the definitive argument for debunking it is that the Soviets never would have let them say they did because there was a space race going on. So they would have never let the Americans get away with saying, we made it.
Yeah,
sure.
that's true.
Plus, if it was actually a secret, do you think it's possible that all of those thousands of people could have kept a secret for 40 years? I mean, it's impossible. People, there's too many people involved in the program. So anyway, it's hardly worth even worrying about. There's people that believe the Earth is flat. And you just go on with what.
And it isn't
is.
For sure.
I've been around it a few times. Yeah, that's the truth.
Tell you what, Chris, we got about a minute left before we go to a break.
Okay.
How about we have you read our top 6 list?
I'd be delighted to read your top 6 list.
Would it be an honor?
All right. The top 6 complaints of being me. All right. Let's see. Number 6, small drum roll. Tired of James Doohan, who's Scotty, beaming onto Atlantis and saying, and I can't do a Scottish accent, it may be the space shuttle, but it's sure no USS Enterprise. Number 5, everyone in Houston thinks Bryan Adams is American.
That's probably true, eh?
It's probably true, yeah. Number 4, not allowed to use Canadarm to retrieve lost golf balls at Huron Oaks. Number 3, we can put a man on the moon, but we still can't develop a product to remove tang from spacesuits. Yeah. And
we're getting a kick
2,
out of this, Chris.
Yeah.
I don't know if you are, but we are
You think it
enjoying
sucks, but
Number 2, can't get K106.3 on the far side of the moon. And finally, still can't get Visa to endorse his sky's the limit credit card idea.
Boom.
There you go.
Thank you,
Excellent.
Chris.
Thank you very much, Chris.
My pleasure.
Right now we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in just a scant second with Chris Hadfield on 6 in the City.
The moving image is an amazing thing. It helps us to understand our past, witness our present, and imagine our future. Through Cable in the Classroom, Canadian teachers can enhance the learning experience of their students with educational programs that engage and enlighten. And they're provided free to schools by cable companies and programming services. Log on to cableeducation.ca. You'll find everything you need to get started. It's a big world out there. We bring it into the classroom.
1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, rock.
Give us any chance, we'll take it.
Who can turn the world on with her smile?
Till the one day when the lady met this fellow.
The love boat.
I want to talk to you about bullying. You see, there are bullies.
Oh, you're in a lot of trouble, I can tell you that.
And there are victims.
Well, I didn't do anything. Oh, boy.
And there are usually a whole lot of kids who just stand around and watch, and they don't know how to do anything about it.
Maybe we should get involved.
So you see, it's pretty serious business. So maybe we could...
Talk about it?
Bullying is everybody's business. Let's talk about it.
Hi, I'm Carrie Kennedy, and you're watching 6 in the City.
Hey, we're back, you guys there. We're back with Canadian hero, astronaut Chris Hadfield. And Chris, we just wondered, what's the scariest thing that's ever happened to you? What would you say?
In space, the scariest event I have, you train like crazy, so the actual space flight isn't all that scary. But I was floating by the window looking down at Australia in the darkness. And as I happened to be looking down watching Australia, a meteorite, a big tumbling rock, came through space into the Earth's atmosphere and burned up over Australia. And it was a big one. It took about half the height of Australia to burn. And watching that big random rock come ripping out of space and hit the atmosphere really sent a shiver up my back, because I thought that could have just as easily plowed into the shuttle and just killed us all in an instant. And it's something you have no control over. And of all the things I did up there, that's the one that really made me feel the most scared.
Wow. So as you're floating, you got a shiver.
That's right. Yeah, zero-G shiver. Let's see what else has been scary. I've had a chance to play guitar. I played American Woman on stage with the Guess Who, and no one told me what the chords were. So that was a scary moment.
Where was that?
That was down in Houston. They came down and played at Party in the Plaza in Houston.
Oh, wasn't that a concert? It was a small...
No, it was a concert.
Oh,
yeah.
it was a concert?
Yeah.
You said party. I thought, hey, you know what? Speaking of playing the guitar, we brought a guitar in here.
We happen to have a guitar here.
Just happened to have a
it's
guitar.
always here, actually.
I hand-carved that guitar, actually.
Just now.
Yeah, out of an elm tree. And you got a song in mind? You got I hear there's a popular Canadian Tire song that you...
Canadian Tire tune I wrote.
Oh, you wrote it?
Yeah, I could play Canadian Tire if you want.
I want to hear American Woman. No, the Canadian Tire song is probably...
let's see.
Are there any actions to it? Do you want us to...
Canadian Tire, you're welcome to act to it if you want. I lived all across the north of Canada, and when you move to a new town in the north, sometimes you're looking for something familiar. And so you want some place that feels like home. And I found that having traveled across the north, live in various places, Canadian Tire sort of felt that way. So I wrote this song about Canadian Tire. And anyway, you can listen to it if you like here. All righty? Not sure how loud we need to be, but I'll give it a try here. Tone me down if you like. Lately I've noticed life's making a change. All the old values now seem kind of strange. All the old places now seem kind of weird. I go to a bar and the girls drink draft beer. What can a man do that's only for men? Where can a guy go to be with his friends? Well, I've found a place to rekindle the fire. I go to Canadian Tire. Canadian Tire, the last refuge of men. The colors of car paint go on without end. Turtle wax, Winchesters, work boots, and wire. I go to Canadian Tire. Verses do you want?
How many you got?
well, I stand in the rain and I wait for the bus. Oh, I go to the office, I suppose, 'cause I must. And the work's on my desk in a gigantic pile. But I'd rather be standing in the sporting goods aisle. There's only one problem that might lie ahead. If the store should go broke, I'd be better off dead. So quick, grab your wallets and be the next buyer. Support your Canadian Tire. Canadian Tire, the last refuge of men. Fondle the hardware and say hi to friends. Turtle wax, Winchesters, work boots, and wire. I go to Canadian Tire. I go to Big Finish Canadian Tire.
Excellent. Excellent. That was incredible.
You know what? That's a male bonding song as much as it's a national...
I wish I had a lighter. I'd be waving it back and forth.
Canadian Tire.
No, I think you got on the stage. M. Greiner wrote a song referring to you. Is that true?
That's right. M. Greiner wrote a song called Christopher. Yeah, that's right. It's quite nice. I had a chance to perform with them in the summertime in Sarnia here, and she's a terrific musician, and it's a lovely song. And in fact, it's one of those. When I was up in space, I found music really. For some reason, just really brought out emotion. I don't know, all the emotions seem a little closer to the surface up there, And that song, I think, would be beautiful to listen to. It's got kind of an ethereal peacefulness to it that was very reminiscent of what it was like to be floating around up there.
Chris,
go ahead.
I just want to ask you, what actually goes on the space station on a day-to-day, like it's always manned now, correct?
Space station is, or woman, yes. That's right.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be sexist, but yeah, no, there's always someone there. What are they doing on a day-to-day basis?
Right now, there's a crew of 3 people living up there. You're limited by your lifeboat. You don't want to have too many people for the seats on board. So we're limited to the number of seats in the lifeboat, crew of 3. Their primary purpose there is to do science in the laboratory, and there's a United States-built laboratory. There's a European-built laboratory and a Japanese laboratory that we're going to launch within the next couple of years. It'll increase the amount of science capability we can do. But that's the primary purpose. But the space station's a complicated vehicle, and so a certain amount of time is just taken up in maintaining the spaceship, keeping things running properly, fixing things that break. I mean, the toilet plugs up and the air conditioning system doesn't work, and there's constant, just like running any ship. And then when the space shuttle comes up and docks, of course, you need to unload everything, do spacewalks, use the Canadarm, get stuff
talk to
working.
Other humans.
Talk to other human beings. So there's just lots to do, and it keeps folks busy. And really, we need more than 3 on the station to really focus on science, and that's where we're headed.
Now, you say they're up there doing science in laboratories. What are they doing there that they couldn't do on Earth? Is it weightlessness?
The number one difference, of course, is the fact that there is no laboratory on Earth that doesn't have gravity.
Yes.
And if you want to study any process that gets messed up by gravity, I mean, heat doesn't rise in space. So if you boiled water in space, the water wouldn't swirl around like that because the hot water wouldn't flow to the top. If you had
So how do you cook craft dinner?
That's a very valid point. If you had salad dressing, you wouldn't get a layer effect in it because there's no gravity pushing the heavy stuff to the bottom. And you can take that right down to the fundamental particle level, and you can do research that way.
Wow.
If you melt metals, they won't have the heavy ones sink to the bottom, so you can create minerals and alloys that are different. If you grow a crystal up there, it will, of course, grow. It won't collapse under its own weight into form.
Like a snowflake almost.
So yeah, well, you can grow to a much larger shape without it collapsing. And so we do a lot of study of actually crystals from within our own body to understand how medicines interact. There's a whole suite of experiments, and just studying our own body. Osteoporosis happens very quickly in space, but when you come back, it reverses. So we don't understand how the body controls that or why, but it's a great laboratory to study osteoporosis and why it reverses. So.
But we do know that to prevent osteoporosis, if you lift weights.
Yeah, we found if you have high impact weightlifting and a lot of stress on your skeleton, then your body reacts by not weakening the bone system as quickly. Sure. But it's a great place to study osteoporosis, and we do a lot of experiments up there just to research that.
Muscles atrophy as well up there,
well,
right? Is that why you couldn't
when I just drink this here, in fact, of course, I'm using lots of little muscles to track it over to my mouth and fight the gravity pushing it down. Space, you never do that. Everything floats around weightless, so you never use all those little fine control mechanisms in your arms, so they all go away after 6 months. You have to grow them back when you get home.
So when you get back on the ground then, are you like wobbling all over like you got no control?
Yeah, you're very weak. If you work out real hard and you haven't done it for a while, or go skiing for the first time, 2 days later you're really sore. Well, after you've been in space for 6 months, just walking, 2 days later, every single muscle in your body is so sore from
all
walking
your friends
around.
have a good laugh at you.
Yes.
Look at Hadfield.
Plus, you can't balance. You've lost a lot of muscle, and it takes about 1 day on Earth for every day in space to rehab. So if you're up 6 months, take you 6 months to get strong again, and then it'll take about 3 days on Earth for every day in space for your bones to get dense. So take a year and a half to get your skeleton dense again.
That's a big sacrifice.
If there were a mission to Mars, would there be an issue with being in space for that long?
You have 2 big issues going to Mars. One, you get outside the Earth's magnetic field, magnetosphere, so you're all of a sudden exposed to the radiation of the universe. So you need a shielded spaceship. The second part is extended weightlessness, and when you get to Mars, you got to be able to get out and walk around and explore. So we may want to spin the spaceship so that you get some sort of gravity field, or just build exercise equipment that spins so that you get some gravity and build up your strength and your muscle tone.
How long would a mission to Mars be?
Depends how good your engines are. If we had an unlimited amount of fuel, we could get there in a few weeks. But with the engines we have now, it's probably too long. It'll take us 6 months. I think we need better engines, and then
plus
then
with
we'll
the
go to
price
Mars.
of gas, I mean,
it's a little bit steep.
Get involved with
but
that
now,
at all.
going to Mars is a priority for you, or you're a proponent of that. I know that you've mentioned it before. Why should we go to Mars?
Well, Mars has the biggest volcano in the solar system, so they have a lot of heat in the core of the planet, pouring out lava. So we know that it's hot underneath the surface. And we found recently that Mars' surface is covered in ice, water ice. So we know that Mars had heat and water for billions of years, just like Earth. And Earth started developing life 3 billion years ago. And that life doesn't exist now, but it's there in the fossil record. Mars isn't hospitable now, but Mars may have developed life 3 billion years ago, just like Earth. And the fundamental question is, we know there's life on Earth. If there was also life independently developed on Mars, that means the universe is full of life. Mm-hmm. It's a huge question, and we can answer it by going to the nearest planet. And we shouldn't go if it's prohibitively expensive or dangerous, but we're just getting to the stage now inventing engines and vehicles and learning how to go, so that I think during our lifetimes we will send people to Mars to go hunt for fossils and see if we're alone or not.
And when you say life, you mean microscopic? Anything qualifies as life that was
doesn't
a living...
matter.
Yeah.
If life can develop there, we've already found over 100 planets in other solar systems. We've looked at suns and seen planets, over 100 different planets. So we know there's opportunity out there, but it would be a huge conclusive proof to find life on Mars. Even if it's gone extinct by now, that would still show that it can happen somewhere. It's not completely unique to Earth.
Isn't this guy great? This guy, you know, I've seen you a couple of times, and I always think to myself, you are like the best science teacher that I never had, because science teachers aren't always great communicators. I wonder, are you trained in public relations, or do all NASA?
If you could have been his science teacher, he would have done something with his life. As it is, look at
I wouldn't be here.
We got time after the show. I can work on it, but. I get a chance to actually meet with students right across the country, right from basic elementary grades right through postgraduate, and so I get a chance to talk with lots of them. Wearing this blue suit, I get a lot of credibility built in too. But I think it's a real.
In that suit?
I try not to, but I think it's an interesting subject to talk about as well. And we actually work with school boards across the country because space makes it easy to explain some of the scientific things that go on.
That's right.
And also, you'll have the kids' attention too.
Yeah, you have their
they
attention.
hang on every word.
And it's easy to show them why they need to know that force equals mass times acceleration. Yes. If you show them a rocket
There's
blast
a practical
off, or you push off inside the space chute and float across, that it's easy to demonstrate things. So I think it's easier to teach science if you've had the opportunity to do things that I've gotten to do.
Let me ask you this question. We got about 2 minutes left. Very important question. What does Chris Hadfield want to leave as a legacy? What do you want people to say in 50 years, 100 years about Chris Hadfield? What do you want to leave behind?
Apart from having written Canadian Tire?
Apart from the excellent CD of songs you're going to have released for Christmas. And, of course, being on our show, say number 3.
The third most important thing I would like to say. No, in truth, I would like to make things more possible for the people that followed me. That is the most important thing. It's what people have done before me. When I was a kid growing up in Lambton County, it was impossible to be an astronaut. It was just a ridiculous pipe dream.
It was impossible to get indoor plumbing.
But because of what people have done, now Canadians fly in space every year, and in the future we will fly more. And I'm part of that process that has opened up a whole new universe to explore. And I would love it if I had been successful in giving the opportunity to my kids and other people's kids to do things that otherwise were impossible.
Excellent. Well, those are very honorable goals, I'd like to say. And Chris, I just want to say once again, thanks a lot for being on our show. We really appreciate you coming out. You got a really busy schedule. I know you got to take off right now to go to Toronto.
To Toronto next, that's right.
Yeah. So you know what? Sarni's over Toronto.
Yeah. Actually, we're pre-taping this, so you're probably already back in Russia.
Could well
celebrating
be.
Christmas.
I'll watch this in Russia.
What's Christmas in Russia? What's in the Russian language?
Well, they normally say S Novim Godom, which means to you on the New Year. To you on the New Year. But Christmas is actually Rождество.
Well, so Merry Rождество.
Rождество.
Excellent.
S Novim Godom.
Well, you know what? That's all the time we got left. We want to thank, first of all, we want to wish you a very Merry Christmas, and we want to thank Colonel Chris Hadfield for coming on our show. From Dave Paul and John Hollingsworth, have a very Merry Christmas. Thanks for watching.
Merry Christmas to you.
Snowden Gloden.
S Novim Godom.
It means snow globe in Russian.
S Novim Godom.
Those little things you shake.
They actually have Christmas on the 6th of January or 7th of January. They're on the traditional calendar.